Question number 3, David Bennett.
Mr Speaker, my question is to the Minister of Finance. What reports has he received on the New Zealand economy and business sentiment?
Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Mr Speaker, on behalf of the Minister of Finance, Treasury recently released its monthly economic indicators for March. The report presents a positive economic picture, with the New Zealand economy growing 3.5% last year. Treasury state the elevated net migration, a high level of consumer and business confidence point to solid growth in consumption and investment. I also received ANZ's Business Outlook report yesterday, which showed increases in business confidence, firms' own activity expectations and profit expectations. A net 21% of businesses expect to be hiring more staff over the year ahead, and a net 25% expect to be investing more. The New Zealand economy is not without its risks, as the recent fall in dairy prices shows. However, these are healthy signs. Reducing unemployment and increasing wages for the New Zealand households happens when businesses invest.
Question.
Order. Can I just ask for a little less interjection from my left? David Bennett, supplementary question.
How is elevated business activities supporting more employment and higher wages for New Zealand workers?
Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Mr Speaker, on behalf of the Minister of Finance, Treasury's monthly economic indicators report summarise the views of businesses interviewed around the country. Business activity has remained strong across the country, with increased sales supported by higher consumer confidence and the fall in fuel prices. Businesses expect, just get yourself a question, businesses expect higher activity to continue for the foreseeable future. All businesses interviewed are expecting to maintain or expand their labour forces. Businesses are expecting wage increases of 2 to 3% this year, well above inflation.
Order. I'm sorry to interrupt. The level of noise is now getting to the stage when I'm going to be asking somebody to leave the House. Would the Minister complete his answer? Point of order, Chris Hipkins.
Mr Speaker, this is question time, not story time.
Order. Order. If the member wants to raise a point of order, I'll hear it, but I won't. Not prepared to put up with that sort of rubbish from a senior opposition. Point of order.
Point of order, Mr Speaker. It does relate to the point of order I raised yesterday, that where ministers read long-winded, pre-scripted answers to government questions, there is going to be more interjection from the side of the House.
Order. But if the answer goes on for too long and it looks like it's a speech, then I will and I do intervene. On this occasion, I don't think the answer was particularly long. I hope it doesn't go for too much longer as I ask the Minister to complete it. But at the end of the day, I'm the adjudicator of the length of answer, not the opposition whip. Speaking to the point of order, the Honourable Jerry Brownlee.
Well, Mr Speaker, I appreciate that you do adjudicate on the appropriateness of the length of an answer, but I hope we don't get to a situation where the opposition have every right to question the government, through the procedure of the House process, get us to a position where they actually can't get answers.
I think I have a further point of order from Ron Mark.
Yeah, this is a fresh point of order, Mr Speaker. Mr Speaker, this point of order relates to your comment to the member Chris Hipkins. And, Mr Speaker, can I ask you to reflect? Yesterday you allowed some very spurious points of order from Mr Brownlee. You gave Mr Brownlee some leeway to interject from a seat that wasn't his own, from its position where he deliberately took the opportunity to take advantage to break up my leader's speeches. Mr Speaker, I would ask points of order in silence. There we go once again.
Order.
Mr Speaker, it seems that on one side...
I've heard enough from the member, because that in itself is a very spurious point of order. I think question time is a very serious time for this House and for democracy, and I object to for it to be termed story time. Supplementary question, David Bennett.
What are the risks to the New Zealand economic outlook?
Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Mr Speaker, on behalf of the Minister of Finance, we have consistently said that we must not be complacent that our good growth that we're currently experiencing makes us immune from economic risks. For example, we saw a further decline in dairy prices overnight, with the global dairy trade index down 10.8%. New Zealand does well when our major trading partners do well, And at the moment, the outlook for two of our major trading partners is not as strong as it has been in recent years. Australia, which has higher unemployment than we do, the Reserve Bank there has cut its cash rate to 2.25%. Growth forecasts have also lowered in China, and there has been more monetary easing there. Meanwhile, the euro area remains burdened by debt problems that are unresolved. So although we have a solid and positive outlook for economic growth, falling unemployment and growing wages, we do need to keep focused on further economic reform to help ensure the growth is sustained.
Supplementary question, Dr. David Clark.
Is he aware that 34 Is he aware that of 34 OECD countries, 10 now have lower unemployment than during the GFC, and a further 8 have had a smaller increase than New Zealand? If so, does falling into the bottom half of the OECD on jobs equal economic success for this government?
Either of those two supplementary questions, the Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the Minister of Finance, I think the second part of the member's question is wrong. Well, I think we're about the 10th or 11th lowest in the OECD right now out of a country list of 34, so that's definitely not in the bottom half. And it's actually, incidentally, one place better than when the previous government left office in 2008.
Supplementary question, David Bennett.
How is the government supporting businesses to get ahead through investment and increased hiring?
Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the Minister of Finance, the government is taking a range of steps to assist businesses to get ahead. The government's microeconomic reform program, the Business Growth Agenda, is supporting businesses to invest and create more jobs. We're opening up access to markets for businesses through the Free Trade Agreement with Korea, as well as, of course, the WTO Government Procurement Agreement. The government is supporting further diversification of the economy with the Callaghan Innovation R&D Grants Program, and the government's fiscal restraint is helping keep interest rates lower for longer. It's great for families with a mortgage, but also takes some pressure off the exchange rate. Overall, the signs are encouraging. Real business investment has increased by around $8 billion in 4 years, and 80,000 jobs were added to the economy last year.
Question number 4, Right Honourable Winston Peters.
This question is to the Minister for Primary Industries and asks,